this November when we go to the polls. No, in this election and every election is about who will have the power to shape our children for the next 4 or 8 years of their lives.
Mondaire Jones and Richie Torres ran against the machine to represent their communities in the House of Representatives. While the final votes are still being counted, and the general election is still to be had, it looks like Mondaire Jones and Richie Torres will be the first 2 gay black men in Congress come January. They'll be representing the Bronx and Rockland, respectively. Both were raised by single mothers in the districts they will now represent, came out of the closet, overcame many obstacles, and went to work fighting for their communities. Mondaire's opponents outspent him 4-1, and Richie ran against one of the most recognized names in Bronx politics. So, who are these 2 incredible men? What got them into politics, and what do they want to accomplish in Congress?
Okay, so everyone that's tuning in now, we're starting a new live stream because the last live stream had some issues, and I'm sorry about that. I'm not very good at the technical side, and we've never had this before, but we're going to start this again for all those of you who are tuning in, just confirming with the team that this is now live on Facebook. Yes, amazing. Okay, and Mondaire and Richie, you can hear me?
I can.
You can see this punum?
I can. We're amazed by it.
Oh, thank you. You're such a charmer. You're going to need those skills in the halls of Congress.
Yeah, it's a charming place.
I'm not going to ask you the same questions I asked you before because I don't want to, and we already had that conversation. But what I will ask you to do is just real briefly, because we're going to take this video and upload it. Can you just give people a little bit of context of the districts that you are running against and just kind of who you are? And you can make it short because we already did this. Why don't we start with Richie, since he just complimented me.
Sure. So I'm the presumptive Democratic nominee in New York 15, which is exclusively in the South Bronx. It happens to be the neighboring district of AOC. The South Bronx has a reputation as the poorest congressional district in America, as well as the most Democratic district. And what was distinctive about my race is that the front runner was a man by the name of Ruben Diaz Sr., whom I call a Trump Republican masquerading as a Democrat. And there was a real risk that a Trump Republican could represent the most Democratic district in America. But thankfully, I defeated him by a 2-1 margin.
Amazing. Mazel tov. And congratulations on that. I haven't been able to see you and say congratulations, but you and I have talked on the phone. And so congratulations to you on doing that. I'm really excited for you.
And my name is Mondaire Jones. I'm the presumptive Democratic nominee in New York's 17th Congressional District, which is parts of Westchester and all of Rockland County. These are suburbs of New York City. And it's a tale of 2 cities. It's an affluent district. It's the 19th most affluent congressional district in the country. The Clintons and Governor Cuomo live here in Chappaqua and elsewhere in the district. But we've also got pockets of deep poverty. We also have seen ice raids throughout this district, and climate change really impact our river towns, which flood whenever it rains. And so we've got our share of challenges here. We are ground zero for the housing affordability crisis. Over 200,000 households in my district are housing burdened, meaning they spend more than 30% of their monthly income towards rent and mortgage. So I'm really, really excited to be, yes, making history along with Richie in this race, but also to be a champion for working people and to be sharing my story with whoever will listen, because I think we need more people in Congress like us.
So I'm going to ask a bunch of like seemingly bizarre questions just because I think what's interesting, there's a lot of things interesting about the 2 of you and a lot of things that are inspiring, but I think very few people actually get to have the experience of talking and listening to and engaging with 2, especially young folks who are on the verge of becoming members of Congress and are about to be, you know, in the halls of power. So I guess my first question is just kind of like, I'm sure the 2 of you had been thinking about this for a long time, about what it would feel like to actually take this next step. Is it as exciting as you thought it would be, or as satisfying, or is it kind of a letdown?
I have to be honest with you. I have been more exhausted than excited.
More exhausted than excited.
And I'm never one to celebrate. I want to get to work. Like, I want to start the transition and hit the ground running, because, you know, like Mondaire, I'm going to have the huge challenge of representing a district that has racially concentrated poverty, and I'm eager to get to work. So I think that's part of it but I think part of what strips us of the excitement is not every ballot has been counted. So there's, normally primary day marks the definitive end of an election. This has been quite different because of COVID-19, because of vote by mail. So this is the most unusual election. This is not the kind of election that we would dream of in our imagination.
Yeah, I bet you guys didn't get to have like the big rock.
No victory party.
Champagne.
At least I didn't.
Like champagne everywhere. You didn't get to have that. I hope you had a little champagne.
I did have champagne. It was forced upon me by
like quietly alone in your apartment, or like you got to do something.
But there was a socially distanced celebration with with a very, very small group of staff members and volunteers on the campaign. But to Richie's point, it's been somewhat difficult to celebrate because the absentee ballots have not been counted. Now we are like I said, we are the presumptive Democratic nominees in our respective districts. We have very large leads that should not be changing once you count absentees, right? The absentees should reflect approximately what you see in the in-person voting. But I have not declared victory yet. Other people have done it for me.
Yeah.
But anything, I've been a little tired. But the adrenaline is pumping, and I'm ready to get to work. I just want to be in Congress so I can really serve my constituents and do the work.
We were talking a little bit about this in the pre-call, but like, do you feel like you're being tokenized a lot as like the first Black gay members of Congress? They're Black and they're gay, and they're going to be members of Congress. They're Black and they're gay. It's just like, it's like you've been on CNN, you've been on, Morning Joe, but like, how does it feel to like have your sexuality and your race be like the reason why so many people, I mean, part of the, I know both of you and I'm so proud that you're making history, but like also with this, that's how we advertised it. Like, how does that feel? Is that like so weird? Is it kind of perturbing? Like, what's that like? What's that about?
We actually had this conversation in private, and I had the same experience when I first won my council seat back in 2013. I became the first openly LGBTQ elected official from the Bronx. And in my experience, look, the initial coverage is biographical. It's largely centered around who we are and what our candidacies represent. But over time, the coverage is going to shift to what we've accomplished in public office. Not everyone has the benefit of biographical coverage, so we're grateful for it. But also, our victories mean an enormous amount to an enormous number of people. There are LGBTQ people of color throughout the country who can see themselves and see their hopes and aspirations in us. And I don't want to reduce that to tokenism. That counts for something. There's something powerfully normalizing about the example that we've set and the courage that we've shown in not only running for, but winning elected office. It means an enormous amount to an enormous number of people, and representation matters, lived experience matters.
What do you think, both of you, the image of the two of you walking up the steps of the Capitol into the House, how do you think that's going to matter to especially, young folks of color, queer folks of color, seeing you do that? How do you think that's going to feel, and what do you think it actually could do?
I don't think either one of us has to speculate on that. I've got messages from the beginning of this campaign, and certainly more recently, from people all throughout my district and all throughout this country, queer people of color, but also just queer people, Black people, young and old, who are saying that my candidacy and Richie's candidacy are helping them to come to terms with who they are and to live their authentic lives. And that is the most incredible feeling, because I was not able to I didn't come out until a little bit later in life. Right? I mean, I'm only 33 years old, so. Yeah.
Mind if I ask, how old were you when you came out?
I was 24 years old.
24, okay.
And so I think Richie has certainly been more public because he's been in office, whereas this is my foray into electoral politics. And so for me, it is the first time that my sexuality has been, all over the news, and I'm the most openly gay I've ever been, to say the least. And I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that because I spent most of my life thinking that I could never run for anything.
Yeah.
Because no one would accept me, or not enough people would accept me for who I am.
Yeah.
Nothing of my own struggles coming to terms with my feelings. And so it's like sort of casual, right? I'm like, well, yeah, of course we're making history, and
Yeah.
I'm proud to talk about it. So I'm really excited.
I relate to something Mandir just said, because coming out is often a process. Even I came out in phases, but once you come out as a candidate for public office, that is the most definitive moment of coming out. You're not out to only your friends, to only your coworkers. The whole world knows your sexuality. And I find that to be a powerful experience. And I find that authenticity, integrity, being honest and open about who you are, that's not only good morals, it's also good politics. We're living in a political moment when people are hungering for authenticity.
And do you think that like you two are going to be the first out Black gay men in Congress, but do you feel like the second, third, and fourth, it won't be as newsy, and so it won't need to lead every news headline when they get elected? Is that kind of a good thing?
That's progress, when the remarkable becomes unremarkable.
Yeah, that's gonna be cool. And also, I feel like I'm excited to be living in this moment and to see you two break this barrier. And also, I'm excited for it not to need to be broken. I'm excited for it to just be.
But I also want to be clear, the reason we're not only tokens is both of us are respected public servants. Mandir is a respected attorney, a product of Harvard Law. I'm a respected member of the city council. So we did not just elect any gay people. We elected people who are powerful voices and faces of a 21st century multiracial democracy.
Do you feel like people have underestimated both of you?
Oh my goodness.
In this race in particular?
Certainly in my district, they did. For most of the campaign, the coverage was that the front runner was a member of what Richie described earlier as the IDC. So the Independent Democratic Conference was a group of rogue Democrats who ran as Democrats, but caucused with Republicans and empowered state Senate Republicans to lead that chamber, depriving Democrats of control of that and blocking all kinds of progressive legislation from passing. And thankfully, most of them were defeated in their primary challenges in 2018. But mine survived and then wanted to be elevated to Congress. And the way that the publications covered it, both in district and out of district, was that he was going to run away with this thing, so to speak. And then you had the political establishment, so many of the members of the Democratic committees, who, despite all of the metrics that you would traditionally associate with a viable, successful candidate, fundraising, grassroots support, even polling, were dismissive. Many of them were dismissive of my campaign. And I think it's because they never imagined that a Black kid, so to speak, could run and be elected to the United States Congress, especially running against two state legislators, the son of a billionaire, a senior Defense Department official, and on and on and on. And so, but we
millions of dollars against you, right? $4 million. Didn't your opponent spend $4 million against you?
I think when he does his next filing, we will see that he spent $5 million. We knew that he spent $4.1 million as of his June 3rd filing, but then he subsequently gave himself $900,000 for a total of $5 million.
Wow. Oh my God. I have so many follow-up questions to that, but first I want to let Richie answer. Do you feel like you were underestimated a lot in the lead up to this?
I would just say, imagine if Mandir's opponent had invested that $5 million in Manny's place. Just a missed opportunity.
That's what I'm saying.
Both of us were underestimated. I mean, I ran in the most fiercely contested primary in New York City. I was one of 12 candidates. I was running against a former speaker of the city council, the vice chair of the DNC, and he had SEIU behind him. A city council member who actually won the congressional district in a citywide public advocates race, a candidate who had the support of the Working Families Party, which is politically powerful. And then my number one opponent was a man by the name of Ruben Diaz Sr., who is the most powerful name in Bronx politics. He has been a larger than life political figure longer than I've been alive. And most pundits said that Ruben Diaz Sr. could not be beaten, that this race could not be won. And against all odds, we managed to overcome his name recognition because this was a change election. I was the change candidate, and voters overwhelmingly cast their ballot for a new generation of leadership in the South Bronx. And it's been 3 decades since we've had new representation in the South Bronx.
Okay, so I just have to ask this. Like, I've worked on a couple campaigns, and I'm just so interested in where you guys think the strategic advantage was, or the kind of how it happened, because it wasn't a traditional campaign. You weren't able to amass a huge door-to-door operation to knock on doors and get out the vote. So, what do you think it was about the two of you that were able to overcome all of these obstacles to get to where you are right now and to be able to sit in these chairs that you're sitting in? I can't see the chair Mondera is sitting in, but I assume it's a comfortable chair. It's not.
No, but
Oh,
it will do.
mine is. I'm on a purple couch.
I can tell, yeah.
Okay.
It's not a $5 million chair, but
No,
So what do you think it was? How'd you guys do it?
it,
Just between us chickens, like, how did you do it? I want to know.
well, it starts with having actual people behind your campaign, right? Not Democratic committees who did their own endorsements locally.
Yeah.
Actual people who with whom your message resonated, right? I was the only person with a consistent economic message in this district. A message that government has never worked for everyone, it's only ever worked for a subset of the American people. One of my chief opponents was talking about prosecuting Donald Trump, which strangely presumes that Donald Trump gets reelected in the fall. Another one of my opponents was talking about Russia, because that was her background as a former senior Defense Department official. And I was talking about the fact that people can't afford health care.
Yeah.
Can't afford to pay for their housing, the cost of housing. And that we have to do something in the midst of this global pandemic to put money in the hands of everyone, not just a subset of the American people. And of course, no one else had my story. And what people value more than anything, I think, in our politics is authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
And so, the story of growing up in Section 8 housing and on food stamps, as my young single mom still had to work multiple jobs just to provide for our family, was a powerful message in a district that, as I mentioned to you, is largely affluent, that has never seen a candidate like myself, except for maybe voting for Barack Obama at the presidential level. Candidates like myself never get the support of the party locally and never fundraise what you need to fundraise in order to win a congressional seat.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a huge, people are excited. They wanted to feel good about this country and they wanted to be inspired. And I'm so grateful to be able to provide that inspiration and that leadership moving forward.
So you spoke to people's issues. You actually were real. You were authentic. You let your true colors show. You showed all those colors, and you were just you. And you actually spoke to the issues that you felt like your constituents really cared about, and their bottom line issues, right? Healthcare, the economy, that kind of thing. Okay, all right. What about you, Richie? How'd you do it? Same thing.
Yes, essentially the same formula. I had to stand out in a race of 12 people.
Wow.
And I think what I offered was a unique combination of both change and experience. There were a number of candidates who were attempting to be the change candidates, but I offered the best combination of both. Mm-hmm. So at age 32, I could represent the next generation of leadership. A number of voters said, "You're old enough to be my son or my grandson." A few voters said, "You should date my daughter," and I said, "That won't work out." And I proceeded to explain why. And then part of it was my personal story. The South Bronx is ground zero for racially concentrated poverty. And I have been in the son of the Bronx my whole life. I spent most of my life living in poverty, raised by a single mother who had to raise 3 children on minimum wage. I've had 2 brothers in prison. I've struggled with substance abuse and depression my whole life. So the struggles of the South Bronx are not an abstraction to me. Yeah. These are problems that I've lived in my own life. And so people connected deeply to my story. People want elected officials who are profoundly human and accessible to them. And that's what I offered. I offered the wisdom of lived experience, but I also had governing experience, which was valued in a time of COVID-19. As the chair of the Committee on Public Housing, I oversaw the largest provider of affordable housing in the United States. For the past 2 years, I've been in charge of investigations into agencies that make up a $90 billion budget. Yeah. So I offered a unique combination of both change and experience. Most candidates were either or. I put forward a both and proposition.
It's so refreshing, Richie, to hear you talk about your vulnerabilities and also the toughness of your life and your story, especially as it comes to your sexuality and what coming to terms with that was like, because I think for so many young queer people who see folks, are as successful and achieving a lot, it almost is, it feels like this false choice between like not having to struggle and being successful. Whereas, and Mondaire, I haven't interviewed 16 times like I've done Richie, so I don't know your full, story, but I know, Richie, you've gone through a lot and you're very public about your struggles and the low points, and yet here you are, you just beat those 12 people, once it all gets counted. And so, yeah, I just like, it's great that you two can be real, and be like, it has not been easy. And I have not been the strongest my whole life, but that doesn't mean I'm not fit to represent you.
I also think we're living in a moment when political machines, political institutions are crumbling. And why that works to our advantage is the strongest candidate who runs the strongest campaign can fill that vacuum, can finally win elections because institutions have come crashing down.
Yeah. What do you guys want to know from each other? What's Mondaire, what's a question you've been just burning to ask Richie?
I want to ask Richie where he got his haircut, because
Do you approve of the haircut, or?
I approve of the haircut. I approve of it.
You look great. Well, Richie, what's the answer?
My barber in the Bronx. I asked him to come to my apartment. I paid a premium. I made a premium payment, but I've had the same barber for 10 years, and he's a loyal barber. I'm a loyal customer, and after 3 months of an afro, I said it's time for me to get a haircut. I took a picture of myself with my hair, and some people thought I was holding a cat.
Oh my God! Wow. All right, and what's a question that you just really want to know from Mondaire? What's something you really want to ask him, Richie?
I'm amazed by Mondaire's accomplishments. I'm just curious to know what it was like to be an LGBTQ person of color at Harvard Law School.
Ooh, yeah. What was that
like? I came out in my second year of law school, and one of the things that helped me come out actually was representation that I had not seen when I was growing up, right? So there's a show called Noah's Ark.
Oh yeah.
Which, it was recommended to me by my straight female friends, probably because they knew they knew I was gay, or just pretending like, I wasn't. And so I watched that, and it was the first time that I'd seen openly gay Black men in loving relationships. And so that was all happening around the time that I came out. And, it was a relief. It was scary at first. It was definitely scary at first. But I think a lot of people kind of, people were pretty progressive for the most part at these institutions. And it was a great relief ultimately when I was in it.
I will say, since we're being informal, I had and have a huge crush on Daryl Stevens. From Noah's Ark. I just think he's gorgeous.
Tell him that. You're famous now, Richie. You're like,
I don't feel famous, but I have a huge crush on him.
You are. Can we talk about personal life for a second? Is that okay?
You already broached that, but yeah, let's keep going.
Sure.
Let's talk about, because
I have no personal life to discuss, so this will be focused on Mondaire.
Well, that's what we're going to talk about, because I do also feel like there is this sense that if people want to be really successful and achieve a lot, and certainly being a member of Congress is successful, that you have to trade in your personal life, your romantic life, your ability to find love, or that if you're going to have love, you have to find it before you devote yourself to politics. Are you too worried about that? Do you feel like you've had to make that choice? Do you feel like love is on the horizon? Is that even something that's coming? Is that something that's on your mind? Are you worried about dating as an openly gay member of Congress?
I would be worried about dating as a member of Congress. Hard stop there without the open gay. Look, I'm single. and it would be great to find someone with whom I am compatible and can fall madly in love. I mean, I still have that desire, but my focus, and don't laugh at me, my focus really is right now doing a great job for the people that I'm running to represent. I feel like the other stuff is going to fall into place.
Yeah. Okay. And Richie, are you?
I'm in love with my district. I'm married to my district. Like Mondaire, I'm single. The ideal is a balanced life, which is a work in progress for me. Um, part of me feels like as a young person of color who's going to be one of the few people to serve in Congress, I'm going to have to work 10 times harder
Yeah.
to be in the same place as everyone else. And I suspect Mondaire has that same mindset that we both I have an instinctive sense of his personality. We both have an overwhelming desire to excel and to represent our district effectively. And that comes at a price. It has a crowding out effect on a personal life. But over time, I hope to strike the right balance. But it's a work in progress.
How do you think about who you're going to lean on and who's going to support you and give you advice as you go from being a private citizen? I guess, Richie, you haven't been a private citizen for a while, but as you become members of the House of Representatives, like, how are you thinking about what your like kitchen cabinet network, emotional support system looks and feels like?
I think it's going to be a combination of people who largely have already reached out, thankfully, and offered their insights. People who have been in Congress, both the current members of the current freshman class and people who are more seasoned in Congress on the House and Senate side. And of course, my friends, right? My closest friends, many of whom are already in elected office, which is great. Mm-hmm. Or in many instances, people who are not, so that I'm not constantly surrounded by people who are talking about the same stuff, right? I want to get away for 4 days and go to the Catskills like Richie did, and not have to talk about anything related to politics at all.
So, I mean, you can do that. Come here, come to Yosemite. We're going to hike.
There's like an uptick in COVID out in California.
Okay, yeah, but not in Yosemite Valley, right?
I hear Manny's is the center of community transmission. I'm kidding.
Oh my God, Richie! Hey, the offices were closed right now. Inside, you can't even come inside. Okay, a serious question. So, Mondaire, your district is 70% white, right? Something like that.
60%.
Wow.
And Richie, your district is 97% folks of color.
I'm not even sure if we have 70 white people in my district. It's almost all Black, African American, and Latino.
So you're both people are grouping the two of you together a lot. You're both close in terms of your district. Your districts are close to each other. Mondaire, you're in Westchester. Richie, you're the Bronx. But like, do you feel? But your district, the makeup of your district's very different. And I know you said Mondaire, it's a tale of two cities, but still, like, that's a stark contrast, right? Having like a majority white district, majority folks of color. The average income level in your district's 100,000, and Richie, I'm the average. You will represent one of the poorest districts in America. So, how do you feel like that affects how you represent them? How you think about how you represent your constituents. The fact that they are so different, or do you think it doesn't really matter who you represent? You still fight in the same way.
I mean, look.
You guys can.
No, I'll defer to Mondaire.
I was just going to say that I ran a campaign that was inclusive. Mm-hmm. My opponents tried to say that I was too left for the district, and so did pundits. But I think that we're seeing that people all throughout my district, including, by the way, Republicans, as I look at the comments that they make in Facebook groups, are hungry for the kind of leadership that myself and his district are running to provide. Mm-hmm. Politics is so much more about the candidate than people give politics credit for, right? I mean, the ideological differences, and listen, policy matters a lot too, but if there is a candidate that you can connect with, mm-hmm. then that candidate's going to get your support. Mm-hmm. I mean, people all the time who say they don't reach all of my conclusions when it comes to a number of different policy issues, but that they trust that I'm going to be a good representative for them and for people in this district who respectfully have not had the kind of representation that they deserve.
Mhm.
And that's really, you know, all that can be, I think, said about that, with the exception that people should know their district too, right? There's some things that are unique to my district that I'm going to be a champion on. You know, and I think that's part of being a smart representative is knowing your district and not alienating people.
What about you, Richie? What do you think about this question of the two?
Yeah, I suspect we're going to champion much the same causes because the South Bronx is a microcosm of the affordability crisis, the crisis of inequality unfolding nationwide. You know, for me, the core criticism of the United States is that we're the only country in the industrialized world that fails to offer a comprehensive social safety net. What we have instead of a true safety net is a patchwork of poorly funded programs. We're the only country in the industrialized world that fails to offer universal education, healthcare, paid time in the workplace. So, you know, Mondaire and I and others are going to be committed to building a safety net that captures all of us when we fall. And no matter who you are, no matter the color of your skin, no matter your zip code, we're all one tragedy away from losing everything. We all need a social safety net. You know, so that's the legislative big picture. I think when it comes to constituent services, it's going to be more intensive in the South Bronx because everyone is struggling with housing insecurity. Everyone is struggling with food insecurity. And so it's not going to be a conventional government office. It's often going to feel like a social service agency conducting constituent services in the South Bronx. But that's something that I'm accustomed to as a city council person.
Are you guys worried about running on these big solutions to big thorny problems and actually getting in there and being like, yeah, I'm glad you want universal healthcare, but like, you know, so does everyone else, and we haven't even been able to get anything done. So are you worried about like hitting a wall and just not being able to even like get incremental change on some of these issues that you really believe in and care about?
Look, we have to elect Joe Biden president of the United States. We have to flip the Senate from red to blue because the ambitious policy proposals that Richie and I both have cannot be enacted with Mitch McConnell still in control of that gavel.
Yeah.
The current occupant of the Oval Office still in power. So that's my major focus these next few months. You know, and look, I mean, legislation is what you campaign in prose, or poetry, but you govern in prose, you legislate in prose. There are going to have to probably be some compromises on some issues. And my goal is to be a champion for the best interests of the people I represent. And I'm looking forward to it. I have great faith in who will be the future president, Joe Biden, and my Democratic colleagues in the House and the Senate.
And what about you, Richie?
I'm optimistic that we're going to have a Democratic president, a Democratic Senate, that the Republican grip on the federal government is finally going to be broken, and that we have a critical mass of new progressive leadership in Congress. And you have people like Monday and myself who are fighters. Like everything we have in our life, we've had to fight for, we've had to earn. Nothing's been handed to us on a silver platter. And we're going to fight like hell for structural change. I did not spend 2 years of my life running for Congress so that I can act and think timidly.
Right.
Like, we need structural change. That's what we're going to fight for. And there's a critical mass of leaders in Congress who agree with us and will fight like hell.
I'm so excited that you are both going to be able to do this job when you're going to be in Congress. Just a couple more like quick questions on the top of my mind, then I'll let you get over to the rest of your evening because I know it's 9:30 at night and you need to get your beauty sleep so you can be interviewed by a lot more people tomorrow and keep doing what you're doing. But
although if you want to do another live stream, we're happy to.
This is live streaming right now to Facebook.
So this is the second one. If you want to do a third one.
Oh my god!
I'm kidding.
Yes, this is the second one, but I'll take you up on that. You both were raised by single moms. What was it like when you told them about the result? What did they say, and what was that conversation like?
My mom was ecstatic. You know, she's on a high, and I love it. You know, it is making her proud is one of the great joys of my life because she has sacrificed so much And I just would not be here without her. And no one could have predicted that someone who lived the circumstances that she did as a young single mother could have produced someone like myself and helped me get to where I am today, where I'm now able to run for United States Congress. And so just really, really excited about this for her as well.
My mother's my greatest cheerleader. She is overwhelmed. And she said my grandparents would be proud. My grandfather said growing up that you're going to be somebody. And my mother said my baby boy's somebody. You know, I'm a product of strong women. My grandmother lost her own mother at 12. Her own mother was murdered. And instead of being taken care of, my grandmother had to take care of her own grandmother. My grandfather, there was a period of time when my grandfather went to prison and my grandmother had to raise her children on her own. There was a period of time when I was abandoned by my stepfather and my mother had to raise 3 children on her own without income, worrying that we would become homeless. She's the person who has struggled and suffered so that I could have a fighting chance at serving an elected office. And even though I'm enjoying the glory of winning and serving elected office, she's the one who had to endure the sacrifice and the pain. So I just tell people that before I was Councilman Richie Torres, before I will be Congressman Richie Torres, I'm first and foremost the son of Deborah Bosselet. I'm nothing without her. And I love my mother because she represents the South Bronx. You know, the South Bronx is full of powerful mothers who struggle so that their children can have a better life. That's the story of the Bronx. That's the story of this country. And I will make it my mission to ensure that the mothers of this country are celebrated because they are the heart and soul that keep this country together.
My baby boy is going to be somebody. That is such a beautiful sentiment. Yeah. And I'm sure she is. I'm sure both of your mothers are proud of you, and they should be. And I'm proud of you all the way out here in San Francisco. And honestly, I have to tell you both, like, it's been so hard. The news has just been so shitty the last couple of months. It just feels like it keeps getting worse and worse and worse. You know, it seems like cases are surging even out here in California. It's just hard to get through the day sometimes, and we need good news. Like, when we get it, we need to hold on to it. And the two of you getting this nomination has been so curative and like cathartic almost, to know that 2 really good people are going to be in this role. It almost is like a bulwark against the sadness and the fear and the scariness of the times that we're in right now. It gives me hope. It gives me hope in our country. You know, there's a lot to be critical of right now in our country. There's so much to be critical of. And at the same time, I do think your stories and your existence, you know, your very being, is a testament also to what is good about this country. And so I guess I just wanted to close with that and let you kind of comment on that, and then maybe just muse a little bit on how you feel like your experiences and your story fits in to a broader American narrative, and how you want it to maybe shape the future.
I think our stories are quintessentially the American dream, right? Only in the United States of America could people like myself and Richie, who grew up in poverty, run to make history. In the 244-year history of the United States, there's never been an openly gay Black man. And to be able to, you know, be talked about nationally and to get to know people from all across the country who have an interest in what's happening in New York, and to provide leadership not just for the people in our district, but for the voiceless all across this country. You know, when you think of your favorite members of Congress, they aren't necessarily your member of Congress, right? They're people who are speaking up about the things that you think people ought to be showing leadership on. And we are living in a broken society, broken emotionally and certainly governmentally. And if there's one thing that is really, as you mentioned, Manny, a silver lining. It is seeing what happened in elections that took place in New York on June 23rd, and a few other elections in this country that haven't yet happened and that have already happened, that really show that people, just everyday folks, want a new generation of leadership. And I'm excited to be part of that. This is the most exciting time in some ways in American politics, certainly in my life. And I'm not gonna disappoint. You know, there's a real opportunity here in the midst of everything going on with racial unrest, or national unrest, I should say. Let's talk about racial injustice and let's show leadership on that, right? We're in the midst of a global pandemic. Let's make sure everyone has health care. Those are silver linings. You know, we're in the midst of economic devastation. Let's bring green jobs back to this country or into this country. Let's introduce green jobs to this country. So I'm optimistic by nature, and I think that optimism is gonna buoy us when we get to Congress and help bring in the kinds of reforms that
Yeah, Manny, what you said about hope resonated with me. It reminded me of one of my favorite movies, The Shawshank Redemption. The main character, Andy Dufresne, if I remember correctly, was in prison for 20 years. And in the movie, he makes the comment that there's something in each of us that cannot be taken away. And that's hope. And I believe that. And I feel like we are hopeful by choice and by necessity. You know, we would not be running for public office unless we were hopeful that we could have an impact in lifting people out of poverty and building a society that enables people to lead decent and dignified lives. You know, what we've seen in the United States is the collapse of the American dream, right? You know, there's a social scientist, Raj Chetty, whose research has shown that you have twice the likelihood of achieving the American dream in Canada than in the United States. And that's something that we have to change. And you asked me earlier, am I excited? And I am excited because I feel like Mandair, myself, and others, that we have a historic opportunity to renew this country and to address racial inequalities that have been 400 years in the making. There's never been a moment of racial consciousness like the moment in which we're living. And with that moment comes a historic opportunity to address racial inequalities that are centuries in the making. And to be part of that is cause for excitement.
Well, the two of you give me hope. That's for damn sure. I am hopeful. I'm glad I live in a country where there is a Mandair Jones and a Richie Torres. And I just want to thank you both for giving me some more pep in my step over the last couple of weeks, knowing that the two of you won your primaries. Thank you for responding to my text messages, even though, you know, I'm competing with Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders and Mayor Pete. So I appreciate you calling me back and keeping me in your life. And I'm honored to know you both. I'm really honored to call you both friends. And, you know, I just feel very lucky to know you. And I'm proud of you both. And like I said, proud of our country that you two won and that you will be there. I'm going to be your biggest fans. I don't care who else you know. I'm going to be rooting so hard from the West Coast. You'll be able to hear me all the way from San Francisco in the chambers of Congress. I can't wait to hear your first speech on the House floor. I can't wait to see what squad you guys create. You know, I can't wait to see you
the gay mafia.
The gay mafia. I'm here for it. You know what I mean? If Daryl Stevens, was that his name? If he's watching, you know, I can't wait to be at that wedding. You know, be the flower girl. I'm ready for it. I can't wait to have a front seat at your story and to see what you guys do. And I'm so excited and proud of you. And so to everyone who tuned in, thank you for tuning in again. Sorry for the technical difficulties in the beginning. We're still figuring out this live stream Zoom thing. Thank you definitely to Mandair and Richie. It's past 9:30 their time. So thank you for staying up a little bit later to be in conversation with us. We are going to do the break room tonight. So if you go to tinyurl.com/ is it Manny's break room or the break room? We're going to look that up in a second. Also, for those tuning in, if you are so inclined to support Manny's, we definitely need the support. This is the only thing we're doing these days. So you can go to joinit.org/o/Manny's. That's joinit.org/o/Manny's. to become a sponsor of Manny's. And Richie and Mondaire, how can people stay in touch with you all or follow your stories? Do you want them to just like your socials? Is there the website you want them to go to for all the people who will be watching this afterwards?
Yeah, go to mondaireforcongress.com. You can also follow me on Twitter, Mondaire Jones, Instagram, Mondaire for Congress, and just follow me along in this journey and sign up to volunteer as well. The fight continues, right? We've got a general election in my district, and I'm really excited about also helping out in these down ballot races across the country.
mondaireforcongress.com. And Richie, how can people stay in touch with you?
Website torres.nyc. I have a Twitter feed, a Facebook. Google me. I have a slight resemblance to Trevor Noah.
All right, that's Torres at NYC, slight resemblance to Trevor Noah. Follow Richie on all those platforms. And Sam, the link for the break room, it's tinyurl.com/Manny's break room. So it'll be just me again, and we're gonna let Richie and Mondaire go to bed or do whatever it is they're doing. But to continue the conversation, go to tinyurl.com/Manny's break room. Thank you, Mondaire. Thank you so much, Richie. On Thursday, we have a conversation with an appellate, a legal scholar, an appellate law group scholar on the results of the Supreme Court cases. So tune in then, and thank you all so much for tuning in tonight.